All right, so I'm actually really glad that you guys are able to listen to this presentation today. I started working on this project quite a few years ago, and when I started off, I was just looking at K-pop cover dancers. And then over time, I became aware that there is this sort of K-pop adjacent industry. And as I have been working on the K-pop adjacent industry, I've realized actually this is like a book project. So what you're hearing today is sort of an outline of different parts that will exist in the book in the future. I have sort of sketched it out, but I really need to send off the first book first before I keep working on this one. So you can see my title on the screen, and I'm going to start my presentation. So with Hallyu 2.0, the world of K-pop suddenly expanded. K-pop was no longer just about acquiring fans and selling MP3 files and securing lucrative advertising deals for the young K-pop idol stars. Curiously, over the past several years, without stopping to ask for permission, new participants have inserted themselves into the K-pop world. Some of these creatives are occupied with making music video reactions, creating educational videos related to K-pop and Korea, manufacturing fan art, providing K-pop tour content, teaching K-pop dance, and even writing magazine articles and books about the music. In this paper, I examine this side culture. Sorry, where was my place? Both inside and outside of Korea. So I've been spending a lot of time doing Twitter research for this, and I posed a question on Twitter. I said, what do you guys think about unofficial merchandise? And Rimi Jain, who is a full-time lawyer in India and also writes the occasional magazine article about K-pop, responded. As you can see on the bottom of the screen, no pop culture icon or act can exist in isolation without the books, the YouTube reactors, dancers, covers, even fan site photos. It wouldn't be an icon. Creativity inspires more creativity, even creative ways to earn money. So Jane gestures at the depth and breadth of content that supports the Korean popular music artists beyond the content that is actually produced by the artists and their own agencies. The ways that the fans are inserting themselves into this K-pop adjacent industry is fascinating. However, taking popular culture texts and transforming them, creating additional areas of activity associated with fandom is neither new nor K-pop specific. John Fisk called this a shadow cultural economy with its own systems of production and distribution. But what in 1992 may have operated as a shadow cultural economy has grown in the context of K-pop until, due to its visibility, its importance, and the large number of participants, it leads me to term this the K-pop adjacent industry. And you can see the way that I'm conceptualizing this on the screen. I'm sorry, I can't see, you guys can see me talking to you, right? Because like normally you'd be able to see me as like a little thing in the corner.
Yes, you're right,
Oh,
Cedar.
okay, good.
See you to the side.
I can't see anything, so like I didn't know if you guys are seeing me.
Okay, yep, you're here, we're here, no problem.
Okay, good. So you guys can see the way that I'm conceptualizing this. So basically, we have all of these fan activities, all of these things that K-pop fans do, and we have the K-pop insiders in the center. But then we also have this little ring around the K-pop insiders, and that's the K-pop adjacent industry. So, when we were in the early years of Hallyu, there were scholars that wrote about how there are substantial limitations of the Korean wave in facilitating meaningful transcultural practice and dialogue. But what I'm going to discuss now is that there's actually this fascinating contradictory transcultural practice and dialogue that has emerged from this fan activity. at the same time that K-pop is actually frequently criticized for being a monolithic, money-driven, manufactured approach to artistic creation, the K-pop industry is actually supporting and supported by a multitude of associated limelight eschewing and limelight seeking artists, educators, and performers working in fields as diverse as fashion, video production, choreography, art, tourism, and education. So this research for this paper actually grew out of this long-term project on K-pop cover dance. And you can see this exact same graphic in the most recent issue of Transactions, the Royal Asiatic Society's journal. So you should get a copy of that. So this long-term project is looking at K-pop cover dance, and I started this in 2015. And as I began to research cover dance, I was really interested, like, what are people learning about Korea in the process of doing cover dance, or are they even interested in learning about Korea? And so I started following these top cover dance teams. And over time, I realized that the teams that continued to produce cover dances were learning how to partially monetize their fandom activity. So for those of you who don't know, if you upload a cover dance to YouTube, the uploader does not get any monetization for that. Even if there are 5 million views of that cover dance, and you can see here with the view count, these are single video view counts, with 7 million, 3 million views. Even if they have that many views, they don't get any YouTube ad money for those views. Instead, those views are automatically assigned to the copyright holder for the song. So it's assigned back to BTS or Blackpink or Momoland. And so they had to figure out other ways to monetize their activities, otherwise they couldn't keep them going. So I created this visualization. So first I was just looking at cover dancers, so like, how are they monetizing it? But then I realized there are all these other people that are also monetizing their contributions to K-pop, because really we have to think of K-pop not as something that's just being made by the insiders, but actually it is being created by some of these fans in cooperation, or maybe with no cooperation. And so fans are not just like passive consumers of these cultural products, like they're actually making K-pop. And so these are like areas of activity and work. So if I start from the brown area, so we have these people who are like curators of fandom activity, or people who get into star production and management. Obviously,
CedarBough, sorry, just the PowerPoint is very blurry for us, so you're going to have to identify all of the text. We can't read anything on it.
Oh, okay, that's all right. So I'm going around, starting from the brown ones. And so we've got star production and management. So some people get involved in actually managing K-pop, but then we have the group of educators. So the orange circles represent educators. Educators include people who are producing materials to educate people, people who are producing experiences, and then people who are theorists, who are interpreters, who are translators. And so this can mean in the sense of explaining what things mean, or in the sense of actually subtitling K-pop content. And then we get into the light blue area, and I've got one for stream punks. These are personalities. The light blue area, these people want to be seen. So these are the people that want to get in front of the camera. Personalities, stream punks, YouTubers. I like using the word stream punk because Robert Kinsell, who's one of the top executives at YouTube, talks about the people on the YouTubers as being stream punks. Music and songwriting, and dance and choreography. And then the dark blue area are people that I'm calling roughly artists. So they're working in clothing, fashion, cosmetics, art and creative writing, and by creative writing, I'm referring to fanfic, and video and photography. And in that case, we're mostly talking about fan sites. For those of you that don't know, fan sites are people with exceedingly good camera equipment that show up at all the K-pop events, take photos, and then they make products out of those photos, like photo albums or card sets, and sell them to the fans who are fans of that particular artist or idol group. So throughout this paper, I'm talking about this as the general adjacent industry, this sort of network here. So in this paper, I'm arguing that through the love of K-pop, young entrepreneurs are creating a creative, collaborative, cosmopolitan, and contradictory explosion of content that exists in both a symbiotic and parasitic relationship with its host, the K-pop industry. This K-pop adjacent industry demonstrates several simultaneous, fascinating areas of activity. First, this industry has created a bridge, an area of interaction, exchange, and education between Korean and Korean musical stars and their non-Korean fans. Second, this industry has emerged as an economically significant aspect of the K-pop ecosystem, even at times in competition with the K-pop insiders. Third, this industry has produced new secondary stars that have made inroads into the world of K-pop insiders. Fourth, this industry demonstrates a future area for tension over ownership of culture. So in this paper, I explore these 4 interlocking issues through interviews with members of the K-pop adjacent industry and highly engaged fans. I assert first that the emergence of the K-pop adjacent industry was, I should read it off the screen, it'll be easier, was inevitable due to the unpreparedness of the music management agencies for the actual needs of international audiences. Second, that this industry will continue to expand outside of Korea, but that because it's less necessary than it was before, as many management agencies have caught up, third, has to become more creative. The K-pop adjacent industries are going to be pushed into unique and creative contributions to the industry instead of just supplementing the industry. And this makes them actually become sort of pseudo industry insiders and sets the stage for a variety of future legal battles. So in this section of the paper, I'm talking about the creation of K-pop affinity spaces, a term that I'm borrowing from James G. Many of these new earning areas were at least initially spurred by gaps that existed between idols or idols in their company and the non-Korean speaking fandom. So fans wanted to interact with the idols and they wanted to understand more deeply about K-pop or about Korea, but their sources of information and opportunities for interaction were limited. So this vacuum ended up being filled by heavily involved fans, some of whom became the early K-pop adjacent industries. So their activities were almost akin to crowdsourcing all of the K-pop content that existed beyond music videos, and a few items of official merchandise. So these adjacent industries are usually both dependent or parasitic, and proponents acting symbiotically with the K-pop fan background from which they emerge. So through the creation of affinity spaces, which are these interrelated online and offline loci of social and cultural activity centered on common beliefs and interests, the K-pop fan community has managed to overcome the cultural and linguistic gaps between K-pop artists and their content and the international community. So in the early K-pop years in the 1990s and early 2000s, despite an understanding that international fans were necessary to allow for market growth, the industry wasn't actually prepared for what the international fans needed. Like they really just thought about it in terms of let's have songs in Chinese or have songs in English. Like they didn't think about everything else that the fans would desire. And since, you know, obviously selling units of music is no longer the major way to earn money in the music industry these days, just preparing musical units in foreign languages obviously was not enough. So simultaneously with the widespread adoption of the internet and the advent of online music and video access, this really complex affinity space emerged around K-pop. And so obviously this initially privileged people who have enough mastery of Korean and at least one foreign language to sort of, you know, bridge that gap, to translate, subtitle, or otherwise share information, often on a volunteer basis. So if you look at the screen right now, I have some examples of some people bridging affinity spaces. So one of my interlocutors, a really lovely young woman from Indonesia, explained to me about the 3 largest YouTubers that are operating in Indonesian language spaces talking about Korea and about K-pop. And so the largest one with over 2 million subscribers, which is quite, you know, impressive. His name is Korea Romit. His actual name is Jong Han Seoul, and he spent about 12 years in Indonesia. Now he's living in Seoul. He became a full-time YouTuber. He shares about Korean culture related information and introduces them to Indonesian viewers. He uses Indonesian language when hosting his videos. And there are other accounts like Han Yuda or Bandung Oppa. And so these are Koreans who are, you know, bridging this gap for Indonesian fans. And then there are also all these people who produce all these books. So last summer I went to Kyobo and I got a bunch of books all about BTS. They're all unofficial books. The one that really makes me laugh is this last one, is Learn Korean with BTS Bangtan Boys, the fun, effective way to learn Korean. Trust me, nobody is going to learn Korean from this book. It is definitely not effective. However, you've got all of the lyrics translated for every song that had come out up until that point. And so as a resource for fans, or as a present to give people that you know who are really, you know, excited about BTS, then I suppose it has some value. And, you know, there are a lot of K-pop fans who are teaching themselves Korean, and, you know, it could be a resource, but it's definitely not the way to learn Korean. So a lot of these various people who started out in this sort of role of bridging cultural and linguistic gaps then became sort of transitioned from being fans to fantrepreneurs. So these early adjacent industry participants, the ones that made the most money were usually the fan sites that I mentioned earlier, these people with the great cameras. And the photos that they have captured have created sort of the backbone of their capitalization. One of the other examples I wanted to give, this is a young woman in Indonesia. I've been interviewing her repeatedly. She's very fascinating. She's one of the leaders of the largest BTS fan group in Indonesia. And she founded this fan group, which she has one co-founder, and then she's got several curators that help her producing content. But she says she did it because she was interested in promoting literacy. Through people's interest in BTS, then she is encouraging young Indonesians to be more interested in reading and also expressing their own ideas, writing And so she created this platform in 2016, and this community that she created, all of these young people are encouraged to be doing things like blogs, and she helps them learn how to write better. And it's really funny because she said, I don't have any time for fangirling. You know, I only get to spend maybe 1 hour a day fangirling, and the rest of the time I have to spend on other stuff. And she's published 3 books. The 3 books are on the screen there. The first 2 books are both published in 2018. One of them was published together with somebody else, a co-author, but 2 of the books she wrote by herself. And if I actually read it from here, probably be clearer. But anyway, one of the books from 2018 has been translated into Vietnamese. Her single authored book from 2019 has been translated into Malayu. And her first book in particular sold 20,000 copies in Indonesia. So this is an Indonesian best-selling book. And even though she's managed to sell like an astronomical amount of books from an academic perspective, since, you know, we're lucky to get a 2,000 book print run, even though she's sold this amazing amount of books, she actually still has to do other work on the side. It's still not enough to actually, you know, live off of. But it's really interesting to see how we actually have these people that are out there that are creating this really rich content and with wonderful goals like literacy. And there are a lot of content where people learn about these different groups through information hubs. And the information hubs include things like, probably most of you guys have seen allkpop.com, or, you know, there's Soompi.com or CedarBough, you know, those kinds of sites. And those sites tend to be really well monetized. So if you go there, as you can see on the screen, as you scroll down through the stories, there are, you know, T-shirts with Hallyu related slogans or pins or other sorts of things that you can buy on the site. And the site is also advertising to you from, you know, the vitamin shop or whoever is paid for banners on the site. And these same kinds of information hubs also exist in other languages. So there's K-Gen, which is the French sort of equivalent, Korea Zine in Turkish, K-Magazine MX in Spanish. You know, all of these different sites create clearinghouses for general information as a source of constantly circulating discourse on K-pop. And they're also sites of, you know, monetization with a lot of, you know, ads and stuff like that on the sites. So
CedarBough, excuse me, this is Steve.
Mm.
For some reason, your PowerPoint's coming through online completely pixelized.
Okay, I have no idea why.
I don't either. We can read the large headings, but anything else, we can kind of see the pictures, but we can't really read anything there. And I just wanted to let you know that we're having a problem with that. Not that it's something that you've got a problem with on your end. It could just be the internet system or something, but just be aware that we're not able to read most of what's on your slide. So you may have to explain a little more to us. I apologize for the interruption.
Oh, no problem. Noted, noted. Yeah, so when John Fisk was writing and he was like, oh, you know, fan economies are, you know, shadow economies, but actually the economy of K-pop fandom has really emerged out of the shadows. And the economy of K-pop is actually, it's being used by things like the Korean government to justify the amount of continued support that is offered to the industry. And so most of you guys probably heard about the Hyundai Research Institute report that came out last year, and it made all of these, you know, grand claims about how much money BTS was actually contributing to the Korean economy. And of course, it sounded quite preposterous to me. And I finally just searched out the report itself. It's freely available online. You can find it quite easily. And it's only 15 pages long in Korean. And it is the most ridiculous correlation does not equal causation study you have ever seen. I mean, you know, it's research methods that your students, undergraduate students would know don't fly. But anyway, you can go check it out. But the truth is that K-pop is contributing hugely to the economy. It's just that we can't necessarily say that every tourist that comes through the airport in Incheon that is familiar with BTS or likes BTS is actually in Korea because of BTS. That's where it becomes a little problematic. And so I've been talking to different people, including fans, about the amount of money that is actually being spent by some fans in this area. And so on the screen, although apparently you can't read it well, in the white box, I have a graphic with one particular highly engaged American fan and the amount of money that she'd spent in the past 12 months. So she had spent $520 on concerts and official merch that she bought at concerts. $1,100 on official merchandise such as albums, memberships in fan clubs, buying things from BT21, things like that. And then she spent $1,600 on group orders. So group orders is one of those things that if you're not a big K-pop fan, you might not be aware of. Well, what happens is you have people mainly in Korea who are creating really cool K-pop content, such as these fan sites where they create, you know, albums and banners and things like that. And how do you get them if you are some random person in Australia or whatever? So what happens is that a group order manager announces to everybody on their own list, probably on Twitter as well, and says, I'm doing a group order for this particular product. If you pay before this date, then I will bring one into Australia for you as well. And then I will ship it to you from my house in Australia. So what it is a way to save on shipping. So you get a bunch of these things all coming in one box to Australia. They arrive at the house of the group order manager, and then she sends them in smaller boxes out to all of the different fans who had prepaid for these items. And so this highly engaged fan who had spent $1,600 in 12 months on group orders, and all of this is unofficial merchandise. Then she has $580 on fan art. Again, this is unofficial merchandise, but the difference between when she says group order and when she says fan art is that fan art is something it's an original thing, it's being produced. In her case, she's in America, so she's ordering from fan artists who are in America who create, you know, cute little buttons or sticker sets or whatever it is. I'll highlight one of those artists later. And then she'd spent a further $218 on iTunes. So that was $4,100 that she'd spent in 12 months just on K-pop. And so that is actually what we're talking about here. That is how this adjacent industry is really cooking along, because the adjacent industry is actually more than 2,000 of the money that she'd spent in the year. So more than half of the money that she'd spent in the year was going to other fans to, you know, produce these items. So let me find my place in the paper. So part of turning stars into icons is legitimizing discourses that connects the stars to something more than media appearances. And the K-pop adjacent industries are a really big part of that. So it's partially just, you know, being able to say this is a lot of money, but then it's also people like the stream punks, like DKDK TV. So the YouTuber Danny Kim of DKDK TV has been able to abandon all other kinds of work. He said even in his first month as a full-time YouTuber, he, well, I spit out a number and he probably doesn't want me to tell you exactly what his answer was, but I said, well, you know, did you make more than 3 million in your first month? And he's like, yeah, of course. So even in his first month, he's able to make more than 3 million. And that's coming in on a combination of money earned from YouTube, money from Patreon subscribers, where people like support the ongoing work of somebody, and also funds that they receive that DKDK TV receives directly from the city of Seoul and from the Korean government, because they do a lot of promo for Korea in amongst the K-pop content. And so they produce all of these different shows. They discuss K-pop, Korea-related news on DK News. They carry out street interviews on DK Asks. They interview K-pop stars on DK Interviews. They introduce Seoul on Seoul City Vibes. And they deeply, excuse me. And they deeply analyze and explain video content on K-pop explained by a Korean. And they also introduce things like contests that could send winners to Korea. So in addition, David reacts to K-pop videos, and Danny sometimes conducts in-depth interviews. So in repayment for interviewing Danny, I appeared on one of those interview shows. So people like these stream punks, they're basically taking their knowledge of the media. Danny and David both majored in media studies at Jungang University. They're taking their knowledge of the media and the popularity of K-pop and their status as fluent English-speaking Koreans, and they're making themselves into not just educators, but actually stars in their own right. At this point, they have so many subscribers on YouTube and they're so well known that I would say that the average K-pop fan knows them as well as most recently debuted groups. So yeah, so that's one area of legitimizing discourse. And there are a lot of different stream punks that are doing similar things. And of course, you know, still some people that just blog and things like that. Another area of the K-pop adjacent industries is producing K-pop experiences. And a lot of this connects back to tourism. So I'm going to give you guys 3 different case studies. One is the city of Seoul. One is Kim Min-sung of Real K-pop Dance. And then one is actually an American case study for providing K-pop experiences. So the government in Seoul is very keenly aware of how interest in Hallyu and idol tourism can transform sort of ordinary locations in the city into tourist destinations. So if you go on the website visitseoul.net, you can find a selection of these self-guided tourist courses associated with different K-pop idols. So for example, in 2018 and 2019, one of the most popular stars in Korea was Gang Daniel, who was a member of Wanna One, that was made by one of the popular audition type shows, a reality show to make a group. And so demonstrating the governmental interest in capitalizing on K-pop and demonstrating Gang Daniel's popularity, the Seoul Tourism Organization designed a special Danity tour. And Danity is the name of Daniel's fan club. And so it legitimized by the Seoul government, the tour gained in significance. So instead of just being an activity for fans, it was actually evidence of Daniel's fame and a demonstration of a new understanding of the role of K-pop in tourism. And the tour itself is relatively simple. The fans can visit 4 locations which are associated with a star. There's the website provides a map and information, including the connection to Daniel of each location with the address and the hours of operation location. So this is basically, it tells you, you know, take subway, get off at this stop, go out, exit this, you know, walk forward 500 feet, you'll see this restaurant on the left, that kind of thing. And whether Daniel himself approved these 4 sites or had any sort of connection to the design of the tour is unstated, but the English language copy really suggests Daniel's emotional connection to each location. And so it's basically the K-pop fan tourists are looking for an experience of being part of the K-pop star's ordinary life, to be, you know, there's this, you know, feeling of proximity and closeness through being able to visit these places. And so an example of the advertising copy is, I said, oh, the brunch restaurant LH2 in Yeonnam-dong was the location of the meeting between Gang Daniel and his fan, the actress Ra Mi-ran, on the entertainment program Weekend Playlist that aired on Saturdays on TVN. Reservations continue to pour in for the table at which Gang Daniel sat. The competition is still fierce among the members of Danity to sit at that very table. So it's not like a particularly exciting location, but it's directly connected to this star. And there's other similar tours set up by the Seoul City government, you know, for fans of NCT or IZ*ONE or Newest or whoever it is. And so there's a lot of that. It's just driving tourism to random restaurants where stars once ate tteokbokki, you know. And then there are like more really fascinating, exciting example is Kim In-sung is one of my interlocutors, and he has a company called Real K-pop Dance. So Kim In-sung himself actually was a backup dancer for one of the biggest groups in the 1990s. And when that group disbanded, he was still a young man. He decided he would go to college, and he studied tourism management. And then he went to work at Hana Tour, which, as you know, is one of the biggest tour agencies in Korea. And he worked there for 5 years. And then he founded his own tour company. And his tour company entirely focuses on the K-pop fan tourist. So just a second. So you can participate in a full day or a camp program, or you can have like a very intimate, tailored exploration of K-pop and Hallyu culture. And you can have this embodied experience of learning K-pop dance under the guidance of a former professional backup dancer. So Kim In-sung has hosted different tailor-made programs in Korea for foreign visitors, including programs to seriously train performers represented by a Malaysian entertainment company, programs for dance schools, and programs for regular school programs on a trip to Korea, not unlike what I witnessed when we took my K-pop summer students to the program. So, and then further, he also gets regularly employed by the Weigyobu, by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to go to foreign countries. If the things were working better, I'd show you the video, but he'll go to countries like Indonesia or Malaysia or Brazil, even to relatively small towns, and together with other people, perhaps with a workshop on how to decorate Korean fans, or you can listen to somebody singing pansori, and you can also have experience of learning to dance K-pop dance. And so it's free programs going around the world set up by the local embassies and consulates. And he's a big part of their K-pop program. And I'm gonna skip that video. Okay, come on. Okay, and then my next case study is Ashley Griffin, and she's in the Dallas area. She's a sort of self-made entrepreneur of K-pop, and so she's preparing K-pop experiences for people even very far from Korea, because she saw how many fans there were and how hard it was for them to build actual physical community, because they would come together for these really, really expensive concerts, but then that would be done. And so she started creating various activities, like the one that I think is the cutest is K-pop skate nights. Where you can go to the roller rink and you can skate to K-pop, and she says very good for family bonding, because the older generation remembers enjoying skate nights. And so there are people like her who are figuring out how to create experiences of K-pop. She also will have like, viewing parties or fan cafe events, things like that. So people are making experiences for K-pop even very far from Korea, which obviously is good for all the people who can't afford to go to Korea. And now I get to talk about dance, which obviously is where I started off. So being paid to dance, I've got 4 great examples. First one is 1 Million. 1 Million is a dance studio in Seoul, and they have a ton of very qualified, very highly impressive dancers who are working there as dance instructors, and they also choreograph or dance backup or in music videos with K-pop stars. And even on occasion, K-pop stars will come to 1 Million's physical location and they will learn a choreography directly from one of the choreographers there. And 1 Million puts new videos up every day. If I'd been able to show you the video I made, I actually had a cute video of them dancing with masks. They're there right now. It was a video from June 21st, and they're there, a bunch of people dancing. Everybody's wearing masks. When I went there last summer, oh my gosh, there's so many people just lining up in the hallway trying to register for a chance to dance in the studio where their idol had previously danced, in the studio with a dance instructor who was so proficient that they could even teach idols how to dance. So, and the front desk staff at 1 Million speaking in Chinese, English, and Japanese to all of these different people showing up, trying to register for classes, and they have to turn people away. So they're making money hand over fist from people who will come even just for one class. Another example is Sandy and Mandy. They're twins from Taiwan. They started dancing together, doing cover dances when they were about 9 years old. Very, very cute. And they've moved on to being sort of like reality television stars. And they also appear in a lot of advertisements in Taiwan. And so they've taken their fame that they produced by being very well-known cover dancers and being attractive young women, and have managed to parlay that into making money through advertising and product placement. Wavia is another very interesting example. These are, it's just 2 members at this point. They started out with a larger group, but Wavia has a private Member Me platform. And if you pay for their Member Me, then you can see special content. I'm just gonna show you a little bit of a video. I don't know how well this will work. It's only a short content, a short link. It'll give you an idea about Wavia.
Chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup with soda on the side. Chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup with soda on the side. Chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup with soda on the side. Chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup, chicken noodle soup with soda on the side.
And bring it out. Yo. Just bring it out.
So So after you saw the way that that video sort of transitioned, you probably wouldn't be surprised to know that most of Wavia's videos managed to incorporate twerking into K-pop cover. And if you go on their Remember Me site, then you can see things like they have a poll, you know, what should we, in our Halloween special video, you know, what should we dress as? Should we be nurse, policewoman, bunny girl, catwoman, or something else? And bunny girl won. And the promo video, ooh, oh, spicy. Anyway, so there are people who are taking their K-pop cover dance and they're making money in that sort of way. But absolutely my favorite of all is Saint 319. This is a group of young people in Vietnam. They started out making covers. The covers are amazing, and they added so much more than you would expect. It wasn't just the dancing, there were whole stories, and their dancing is so high quality, and their video work was so amazing. And they finally realized, wait a second, like, we're getting these huge views. We have these great skills, and they actually transitioned into being a K-pop style entertainment company. And if you look on the screen, obviously you can't read clearly, but this is showing their most popular videos that they've uploaded. And these are original content, 104 million views, 58 million views, 57 million views, 45 million views. So they have multiple different artists and groups who are churning out videos, and of course, you know, you can buy the music too, that are very much in a K-pop style, but they're in Vietnamese, and they are managing themselves, and it's absolutely amazing. And the whole way that they like form groups and everything, there's so many overlaps with the way that things happen in the K-pop world. And even they've covered as singers, made new videos of Korean songs where they will even come to Korea and shoot the music video in Korea, because what could be more authentic? And so they're making money now as stars. They just became the stars. And then I'm going on, since I don't have that much time left, to merchandise. So could actually K-pop adjacent industry be in competition with the K-pop insiders? Like, yes. At this point, it could be. And one of the biggest areas for that is merchandise. So fans in particular seem to understand the importance of authorized official merchandise, but the cost to purchase this merchandise is often quite prohibitive. And many express a lack of confidence that the idols that they love so much are actually benefiting significantly from the merchandise sales. So although in other fan communities, there have been sort of calls to protect fandom as like a gift economy, K-pop fans, like fans of fan fiction in the West, seem to accept that creatives should be paid for their creative labor. So in my interviews with highly invested fans, they explained that they enjoyed supporting other fans who are creating merchandise. And they sometimes mentioned its lower cost, and that they would like to keep the funds circulating inside of fan communities. To sort of summarize though, their line in the sand that they draw is that they want to support legitimate fans. They don't want to support somebody who's in it for a cash grab. You can't be a non-fan trying to make money from fans by producing K-pop, you know, adjacent materials. And you're not supposed to be producing something that is a knockoff or too close to the official merchandise, because that is unfair. So my case study that I've been interviewing on these two young women, I've been interviewing Wally Pena, and her family immigrated from the Dominican Republic, and the two sisters, who are 18 and 21, have a thriving business. They have Ko-fi, which is kind of like buy me a coffee sort of tip jar, but they do all of these merch sales where they create they take orders online, they get these things manufactured, they send them out to the various fans. And one of the things they specialize in is a sort of world of very, very cute BTS characters turned into vampires. So like cherubic cheeks, like really big fat cheeks, but like little fangs, yeah, as buttons and sticker sets and all that kind of stuff. So the question then is, what about legal challenges? Because there are people that are out there selling things which are knockoffs and calling them official merchandise, or people that are trying to sort of, you know, get all the money from the K-pop fans. And so there are struggles that are happening in various fronts. One of my interlocutors told me about this young man who works in the French market, sells a lot of clothing and K-pop paraphernalia online, claims much of it to be official merchandise, and also is a YouTuber. And there are a lot of, you know, sketchy quantities that I guess I don't have time to go into, but there are legal challenges then that are on the horizon. So what do you do when you have these people who are making money, who are doing a cash grab without necessarily contributing much to the fan community or to K-pop as a whole? So as fans become aware of these violations of the social contract, then you get all these arguments about authentic versus inauthentic merchandise, and fans reporting people to the companies, asking the companies to sue them, and there have been a lot of lawsuits. In cases like this, there aren't usually lawsuits for somebody making buttons of BTS vampires. And fans also will turn on performers or educators or artists in the K-pop adjacent sector if they feel like they're misrepresenting their love for BTS, or if you're, you know, criticizing a group too much, or whatever it is. Yeah, I guess there are so many different areas in which you have to say, like, the K-pop adjacent industry can only exist because K-pop exists. And so to what extent do these K-pop stars actually own their image and their content and their popularity, which is being leveraged to make money for people from outside? So just a very short conclusion, these secondary stars and adjacent industry participants of today are the producers, choreographers, directors, and stars of tomorrow. And they're driving K-pop in a really interesting and international direction that I, for one, am fascinated to watch unfold. All right, so that brought me in right at 53 minutes, which I was told that was about what I was supposed to hit. So yeah, there you guys are.
Great.
So if you guys have questions, yeah, I guess you do, because there's a chat with
I have questions. I have one question. It's not one of those weird comment questions, but it's actually a question.
Okay, Michael.
But it's a bit racy, so is that okay here? It may, but it's a legit question. I'll just stop me if it has to be privately answered. But I look at Instagram pay models, and I have seen adjacent industries grow up, and your Wavia example actually struck a chord with me, because the first thing I thought of is the fact that lots of these Instagram pay models in Korea, there's this kind of thing going on. A lot of the top ones actually make money on OnlyFans, which you might know is,
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. which you might know is a way for people to go into private meetings, and lots of things happen that can't happen in public. And you obviously know I'm talking about some kind of exchange of sexual visuals or that kind of thing, arrangements on the side. And that, I think, drives a lot of the industry at the top at certain levels and what I'm looking at. And I've been watching Wavia literally and kind of in a general sense for years. And I've always wondered if that's going on and if there's like a special, you know, kind of account. And you mentioned meeting people privately. So that's the first thing I thought of.
Well, with Wavia, if you look on their member me, there's a certain amount of content that you're able to see on the member me, even if you're not a subscriber. So you can see a lot of the discussions with them or demanding certain types of content. Demanding, I do mean demanding. But you can't actually see the content. That's what they're keeping private for the people who actually paid. And apparently they are not as racy as people want them to be. So they are constantly being asked to, for example, touch each other more in their videos. And, you know, it's like, they are being pushed in a direction which is sort of borderline, you know, sex work. Yeah. But, you know, it's only one of the ways that cover dancers have found to make money. And, you know, Wavia was also making money from, for a while they were teaching classes. They also perform around Korea a lot, like college festivals. They'll be like the 6 p.m. thing, whereas at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. you'll have the big act. But at 6 p.m. you might have Wavia, you know, doing cover dances.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that answers my question.
So I can see that there are lots of questions in the chat. Am I supposed to scroll up through it? I can't believe Tsuya is awake. Girl, it's like the middle of the night. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying. Yeah, I'm really sorry that you guys couldn't read it. I don't know. I mean, I have like a really high quality looking thing on my end. So I could perhaps share the PowerPoint to the Royal Asiatic Society and they could maybe send it on to anybody who needed it. Okay. Okay, I'm still trying to find like actual questions here. So Saint 319 was one of the first cover videos I watched when I myself began cover dancing here in Australia. It's interesting to see how they developed their career. Yeah, the Saint 319 is just amazing. I really want to go to Vietnam and interview them, but COVID-19, that was kind of my plan for May. Okay, considering all the headlines K-pop fans are managing in the US, do you think we'll see an increase in K-pop groups willing to take chances on political stances? Could there be anti-fascist or anarchist K-pop groups? I do not see any chance of anti-fascist or anarchist K-pop groups appearing. In terms of political stances, I actually see even Black Lives Matter stances of K-pop groups as not being a political stance, but being a social stance. That they are saying, you know, that they're taking a stance against systemic racism. They're not trying to take a stance, you know, politically. It's just that America seems to make things like Black Lives Matter into a political issue instead of a social issue. Really, this is a social issue that needs to be solved you know, through social means, not through political means. And I do think that from a Korean perspective, that people are looking at that as a okay, we have been ripping off Black music for years, and these are the conditions under which people in the United States are living. So, I think that what they're saying there is in the same sense of their supporting social causes in Korea, where they make donations to support, the elderly, or support people with disabilities, or to support low-income children, or whatever it is. So I do see it very much as we are supporting people who are being disadvantaged in society. We are trying to help amplify a voice for people who need amplification. I don't see it as political. So Suzanne asked, big hit reported revenue for 2019. Does it include YouTube revenue from cover dancers? Yes, absolutely. All of that revenue does go back to the creators. It is quite amazing how well YouTube can find even a very tiny amount of content that you have included in your video from, it's web crawlers. It's not actual people finding it. So yeah, so yes, it does include that. It is passively making money off the activities of fans. Elliot says he has a question. Steven says he has a question. Maria has a question. Okay, you guys, just,
Can I ask? Do you hear me?
Go ahead, Maria.
Yeah. Hello, thank you very much. It was very interesting, very informative. I have a short question. As you said, the K-pop industry started since the end of the 19th, so it's already more than around 20 years, right? So I have a question about the fans. Is it mostly for teenagers and young adults? And when they are grown up, do they stop being such an active fans, or do they keep interest? So they buy the merchandise, they are involved in the activities. What is about the age of the consumers of all this merchandise and product production?
So when K-pop groups debut, they're focused on tween and teen audiences, and as they age, their audience ages with them. So you lose some people over time, that people just come up with new interests that they no longer are going to spend so much energy and so much time on K-pop. But some of the groups that have been going on for a very long time, for example, Shinhwa doesn't have teenage listeners. Shinhwa's listeners are in their 30s, even in their 40s, and people have been with them the whole time. So they have a very, very loyal fan base. Is their fan base growing? Not necessarily. They would have to, what Super Junior has done as they've gotten older and no longer interesting to teenagers in Korea, is they've really courted the international market. Like, hey, Spanish speaking world, here's Super Junior, we love you, And so that's a way that they can then increase their audience and make more money while within Korea, their market share is decreasing because of the age. And as they get older, a lot of people transition away from being an idol, and they just become more of like an artist. So you see that with people like, Hyori, or, even of course, people like Jay Park, who was kicked out of an idol group and then comes back on his own terms. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hey, let's go to Stephen with your question, please.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks, CedarBough, for a great talk. It's 11:30 here in New Zealand, so here I am in my bathrobe, but what the hell, we're among friends. Just wondering, for example, thinking about the people who are active in Indonesia. So I went and looked up Korea Ramit while you were speaking, Jang Han-seok, who he also, there's something of him with Jokowi, with the president, also speaking Javanese. So becoming a conduit, he's a bridging person. He's not just K-pop adjacent. He is functioning very much as a Korea-Indonesia intermediary, right? And I'm also just wondering what the differences between outbound and inbound are for external markets. So you have Indonesians who have developed knowledge of Korea as opposed to Koreans who develop knowledge of Indonesian, and there are different functions for the local markets. You're muted, I think.
On as a different way to look at these industries. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that yet as a way to conceive of it, but I can definitely see how that's an important way for me to check this out. I think I should get back to you on Facebook or something after I've thought about it more, rather than just like meandering in front of everyone, which I'm too good at doing. Elliot, you said you had a question. Are you still there?
Hello, can you hear me? Hi.
Yep.
Okay. So I kind of posted my question in the chat as well, but I'm thinking about, I'll just read off my response here about how K-pop adjacent industries at their core are still dependent on the main K-pop industry and like the idols themselves being marketed as products, or like their kind of, image of it, being close to the fans or whatever kind of thing. And so especially with like groups like say in 319 and then the production values and stuff like that, how they're getting like, very professional and stuff like that. I'm wondering if you think there's like a possibility of the K-pop adjacent industries kind of divesting from K-pop or becoming something different, and like in fact, I don't know, taking the skills they learned or like the cultural capital they gain in order to like become something independent.
Well, I mean, I do think that groups like Saint 319 are becoming something independent, but at the same time, like they themselves, their interest was K-pop. They loved dancing to K-pop and they like that style of music. So they've become their own thing, but it's still, close enough to K-pop that they can market to audiences in Vietnam who want something that kind of looks like K-pop, kind of sounds like K-pop, but maybe is sung in Vietnamese. Or maybe they want to support, homegrown stars. So I don't think there's a big reason for them to completely divest, both because that's the kind of artistic form that they were attracted to in the first place, and also because it's a sort of marketing technique that gets them to the sort of audience that would be interested in their work. Although a lot of their independent work is much more on the side of like ballad than dance, which is sort of interesting, but they still get massive views, and it sounds like, and it's produced like K-pop ballads. Okay, so I'm looking in the chat here, K-pop reaction YouTube. A lot of reaction videos, people actually are able to monetize those videos, and that's the reason why you see a lot of like K-pop cover groups then will also have reaction videos, because if you make enough sound over the top of it and you put that original video as just like a small part of the screen, then you can beat those YouTube web crawlers and it can still be monetized as your own content instead of being, copyright assigned to the copyright owner. And so I find reaction videos to be rather painful to watch, but there's a couple of really good articles that are out about reaction videos. And if you send me an email, I can send you the PDFs. Okay, Leora said, do I see a K-pop related surge in commercial venues to learn other Korean cultural traits like traditional music, language, or food? I think that there is room for people to move into a K-pop adjacent industry, teaching people things like how to make kimchi, as long as you're in a big enough commercial, a big enough population center that you could, reach a lot of people. I don't know if you'd be able to do that as your only source of income, but I mean, I think you could make some money off of that. Certainly, Leora, you know, in Israel and here in the United States, that we have just huge interest in students showing up for classes on Korea and learning the Korean language. So it's been really amazing. Just the drive and the educational desires of young people because of this stuff. Oh, Suzanne suggested people could follow up with me on Twitter. Yes, I'm on Twitter at the K-pop prof. The K-pop prof. Somebody else was already at K-pop prof, so I had to be the K-pop prof. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of comments on the chat as we're going down. One thing during your lecture, CedarBough, because we couldn't, for some reason, whatever, we couldn't read the PowerPoint. People were wondering if you could send that PowerPoint file via the chat before we close the meeting tonight. If not, we'll deal with it on the RAS website when we post the video.
I mean, I would be distracted for a couple of minutes while I like created a new copy of it and deleted extra slides and stuff like that. I mean,
no, that's a lot of work to do this hour.
I mean, if anybody emails me and wants it, I can send it after I've cleaned it up and gotten rid of it.
How can they email you?
So cedarbough@gmail.com or c.saeji@gmail.com. So
okay,
yeah. And the Asiatic Society also has my my email, so if you didn't catch that,
yeah, if you didn't catch it, send us an email at our office email address, and Joanne, who is our program coordinator in the office, will try and field all of those and get them onto CedarBough.
Jinx. So yeah.
Is there any other question at this point? I don't see anybody frantically waving. Thank you, CedarBough.
Oh, Raymond is frantically waving.
Oh, is Raymond frantically waving? I don't see Raymond. Raymond, unmute your mic and ask your question, please.
Yep. Thank you very much for that. I'll try not to take up too much time.
All right.
I know we've been going on for quite some time. But big thank you, Cedar, and hello to everybody around the world. My question is going to involve the concept of hybridity in this adjacent industry. And apologies in advance, we're going to have to do a little bit of name dropping. So I've been running a K-pop group for 5 years now, and unusually, aside from performing, I also run events on a non-profit basis, just to underline that. So to give you one example, last year, I devised the first ever Welsh National K-pop Championships, and a major partner organization was the Republic of Korea's cultural arm, the Korean Cultural Center. And I've been working with them on other projects as well over the past couple of years. So basically, I'm wondering, in your observation, in this adjacent industry, how much of a role have you been seeing the Korean government, if I could put that in inverted commas, through their cultural arm or directly involved in these events? And just to add also onto your point about what are people learning about Korea in addition to K-pop, for this Welsh National K-pop Championships, we sort of converted it also into a Korea in Wales Day. So we had traditional performances, in addition to the K-pop Championships, we had Korean food, hanbok try-ons, language sessions, and we even had the Lord Mayor of Cardiff come along to open up the proceedings. So it was a very, very high-profile event. So to summarize the question again, what role do you see in this adjacent industry of the Korean government in its various forms taking place, and globally? Not, I've just given you the example from my country, but what have you been seeing elsewhere globally?
Well, actually, I should direct you to my article in the most recent edition of Transactions of the Royal Asiatic Society, because that article specifically talks about the Korean government using K-pop for cultural diplomacy, for soft power, the ways that the government will spend money on events, on encouraging people to do things like cover K-pop. and why it is that they would do that. So the interesting thing is we do see these Korean cultural centers doing things like sponsoring cover dance contests, or in Vancouver, they even had a kimchi contest where you could bring your kimchi for, you know, who made the best kimchi. Obviously, Vancouver's got more Korean population, you know, more people who might be, you know, capable of doing such a thing. But we don't see the government doing a lot of encouraging people to make products like, you know, these different fan art products, because that's where you get into this real gray area. When somebody's covering the K-pop dance, they are literally performing an advertisement of Korea on the street where they're covering that dance. And so from the government's perspective, it's great to encourage that kind of activity. Like, yes, go out in public and make K-pop look exciting and turn people onto this music. But it would be a far different thing for the government to get involved in, like, oh, let's have a fan art contest. Like, I mean, I think that they probably see that as like, oh, well, this could be really fun and it could encourage a lot of people. But on the other hand, like, who actually owns the likenesses and the iconography of these groups? Because they use the actual iconography, which is often trademarked, you know, by these groups. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question fully, but you should definitely read that article.
CedarBough, I had one more question as well. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking about like the potential of the adjacent industries as like a sort of social enterprise, right? When we're talking about the Indonesian woman who you interviewed who put out the books for and use K-pop to like promote literacy kind of thing. But I'm also like kind of on the opposite end of that is like how those kinds of ventures like flop, where it's like when you use K-pop to like learn about something, or like, you know, learn Korean through BTS or whatever kind of thing, and then those are like not up to standard, or they're not, like not effective in what they're trying to do. And so I wonder if you could see, like, I wonder if it's possible to trace like a trend with that, like where it's like when people take K-pop and apply it to their own local context, it seems to be effective. Whereas when it's like, oh, we want like, we're like cultural outsiders, but we want to use K-pop to introduce Korean things, but we're not Korean, then it kind of like doesn't work. Do you feel like that's like kind of a rule or a trend? Or?
Well, I mean, I think the author of this book actually is Korean, but I think that the author of this book has no understanding of how to learn Korean as a foreigner, or how to introduce Korean language to non-Korean speakers. And so, yeah, I do think that they just jumped in there as a sort of cash grab, like, you know, oh, this is a way for me to make money, you know, like, so I'm not, I mean, I think that in general, the fans themselves sort of regulate this, because the fans do not, they don't respond well to the people who seem to just be using K-pop or using BTS. And they see that if the fans perceive inauthenticity in the actual devotion to K-pop of the person producing the stuff, then it just doesn't fly. A lot of these people who are just trying to get in as a cash grab, they don't understand the lingo and they're trying to have a conversation in kind of like a foreign language with these fans who are like, okay, if you said it like that, you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, look at the cover of this book. Learn Korean with BTS Bangtan boys. Like, this is not the way that BTS fans in English are going to say, like, BTS Bangtan boys is not, you know, like, oh, okay, you don't actually know BTS.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, CedarBough. We appreciate you getting up so early in the morning in Indiana. Not my favorite time of the day, but thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate that. Let's see, somebody's saying something in the chat. Oh yes, thank you. Okay. I need to make some announcements so that we can be informed about what's coming up. This coming Thursday is our literature club gathering. It will be on Zoom. And then on July 7th, our next lecture will be by Joey Rositano on the Jeju island Henyo. And on July 14th, which is exactly 1 week later because of time scheduling, Joseph Jun will share his paper on exploring the Korean diaspora through Korean Cubans. And so that ought to be, both of those ought to be interesting. And we hope you'll join us for those. You can go to the RAS Facebook page or the website at raskb.com and pick up the links on those to get to the Zoom meetings. We will say good night. Thank you very much.